Hello, everyone. Well, soon it will be our Astrological Association Conference. It will start from 27th of August to the 31st of August. So we are starting to, speed up and also introduce our speakers. And today, it's my, big honor to going to interview dear friend Wade Caves, and he is going to present some interesting topic to our conference. So let me check, is Wade here? I think Wade is probably ready. Oh yeah. This conference is so big and so important. Hello from Latvia. Yeah, hi. Well, so we still have a few places. So if you are interested to join us, please come to join us in Nottingham or online. Good morning, Wade.
Hey Rod, how's it going?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, the weather's really beautiful in New York today, so
Lovely.
it's hard to have a bad day when the weather's so nice.
Oh,
So
nice, nice. It is. We also have a good weather today, and I really hope this will last until you come to England because when the weather is beautiful, England is so nice, so cozy.
I know we've only
Yeah.
got a couple of weeks, so it's possible.
Fingers crossed, because I usually, Wade and I, we usually meet at the conference just like a chit chat and also enjoy the, hanging out in the evening,
Yeah,
and that was so fun. I think that is another big important thing for the conference. We met each other and socializing together with our colleagues. So. I to be honest, I was like so happy when I hear you are going to give a presentation this year again because you always bring some great idea and inspiring, and also you work so hard. You do a lot of research. Last year, your presentation was like a mind blowing, to be honest.
well, thank you
so
very much, Rod.
so tell us this year what you're going to bring to us.
Yeah, so just to say, I wasn't originally on the schedule. The School of Traditional Astrology had one of our students who was going to come and present. And it seems as though circumstances have changed and he's had to back out. And so we had an
Mm,
open spot. And given the tight timeline, it seemed like and Deb's already speaking, for instance. So it's like
yeah.
I'm an easy one to fill in. So
Oh.
um, so this year, the presentation that I'm going to be giving is focusing on Saturn Mars cycles. So I'm in the process right now of delivering the pilot version of the STA's mundane astrology course, which has been a really it's been my favorite part of my life right now, the development of this course and going through this material. I mean, there's just so many avenues that you can go down. In the process of developing research for this particular course, obviously, we need to talk about the big conjunctions of the planets and planetary cycles. So Saturn, Jupiter, Mars,
Hmm.
Saturn. And of course, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, which I'm not focusing on so much. There's more than enough material elsewhere on those three. So we're focusing
Hmm.
on the others where there's very little. And, the reality is that in the traditional material, there's just not a lot of worked examples about what you do with the Saturn Mars conjunction. There are not a
Mm.
lot of worked examples for Mars Jupiter or even Jupiter Saturn for a lot of very good reasons, some of which we go into when we deliver this presentation. Why is it so
Yeah.
difficult to find this material? I'll tell you the short answer. They couldn't, because those planets move so slow, they couldn't tell exactly when they conjoined.
Hmm.
And as a result, you can't get an ascendant. And if you can't get an ascendant, you can't have a chart. And if you can't have a chart, then so we're talking about conjunctions in signs. And then there was
Hmm.
this whole tradition that developed about using mean conjunctions, like Saturn
Hmm.
and Jupiter, mean conjunction. But those were all workarounds for the fact that the technology couldn't tell you when the two planets were actually conjoined. So that's why there's just, I think, such a lack of, deep material on this particular theme. We don't see it very much in Ptolemy's work, for instance, and it's referenced elsewhere. But there's some, really powerful stuff coming off the back of those cycles. So this particular talk It's something that I workshopped a little while ago, probably about a week and a half ago. I did a little
Mm-hmm.
webinar just to test some of these ideas to see how it was going
Mm-hmm.
to feel, how it was going to land. And it got good reception. So I put it forward for the AA talk. And so we're going to be taking a look at three different conjunctions of Saturn and Mars that occurred in the past within
Mm-hmm.
at the start of the 20th century in the early 1900s and how that had an effect on three different countries. So we'll be looking at Portugal, will be looking at the United Kingdom, and the other example we had, well, now it's lost. I've lost it. There's a third one. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've also got a look at the Saturn Mars conjunction that's coming up in Aries next year. So
Oh,
um, yeah, at 7 degrees of Aries. So that'll be a big open kind of discussion. We're processing the opposition that's just taking place right now. In fact, I think that
yeah.
they're like within a degree of each other. And yesterday I put up on my stories all the headlines that I was seeing in the news. Absolutely insane amount of planes going down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was, I mean, these things happen without a Saturn Mars opposition, of course, but the
Mm-hmm.
headlines yesterday were just wild. Like, I don't think that I can actually even open up. Maybe I can. Here, give me a second.
Yeah.
I might be able to reference some of these in my library.
Cool.
Yeah, here we go. Okay, so let me just read some of the headlines that came out when this aspect was perfecting. The U.S. Air Force to deny retirement pay to trans service members. That's insane. Two
Mm-hmm.
die with a helicopter crash in the Mississippi River. Two Pennsylvania state troopers were shot. We've got the nomination of somebody who is not qualified to be on the Federal Reserve Board in the U.S. And so obviously being nominated on a Mars Saturn cycle is like not ideal, right? Why the search for meaning can cause purpose anxiety and what to do about it. I think there's something amazing about the restlessness of that opposition that gets captured in that headline. Netanyahu says Israel plans to take over all of Gaza in a bid to destroy Hamas.
Oh,
Which
yes.
is, it's not a bid to destroy Hamas, it's a bid to wipe out Palestinians. It's a genocide, and Hamas has been just a ridiculous shield for the truth that Israel has tried to use for a long time. Thankfully, that's falling, no apartheid. Indian authorities in Kashmir are banning books. Then there's
Oh
this
my
horror
God.
film. There's a horror film that's also
Yeah.
done really well called Weapons. There's all these horror films that have come out in the media right now that are like extremely violent, but they're doing very well. We have in sports, there was a man arrested for throwing a sex toy into the crowd at a WNBA
Okay.
game. We have the
Naughty.
merger. Yeah, exactly. We have an $8 billion merger of two entertainment companies now creating this new kind of conglomerate giant, which I'm sure is going to be a mess. ChatGPT 5 just got released. There were six that got killed in an air ambulance crash outside Kenya's capital. So there's just so many violent, egregious, extreme headlines at this time. So these Mars Saturn cycles are, especially the opposition, important to watch. Now, the conjunctions.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, the historical authors said actually the conjunctions of Saturn and Mars can be really productive because Mars
Mm-hmm.
heats Saturn up a little bit, and provided
Ah.
by sign and by phase and other things, just a little bit more heat to the mix, it actually can work out to be quite an industrious and productive conjunction, but it's still going to carry the signatures of those two planets. So that's the kind of thing that we'll explore in the talk.
Wow, fascinating. This as a mountain astrologer myself too. So when I see this topic, I say, "Ooh, this is going to be fun," because when I was study in the faculty and when we work on so-called mundane astrology, the first things we've been told is the Jupiter-Saturn circle. And
Yeah,
then it was until I met more traditional astrologer, and some tell me "Oh, the Mars Saturn also kind of an important cycle too." And I was like, "Oh, why I never
yeah,
think about that?" And then
yeah.
went back to read some book like a translation by Ben Dyke or something. I was like, I still couldn't really get my head into it
I
because
understand.
it's quite complicated, especially how to do that, how to measure the cycle. Like you mentioned, the challenge, like when, because they use a min conjunction and that, I was totally lost. Was it? Mean conjunction. Oh, how to
Yeah.
calculate it?
Yeah, I don't use mean conjunctions because we don't use the mean aspects of any planets. And again, the mean conjunction was only developed because they could not tell you when the true conjunction happened. You know, those
Yeah.
two planets, Jupiter and Saturn, are so slow to see the exact minute and second that they come into conjunction, you could be hours off, you know. The
Yeah.
tables aren't going to be right. Your measurement tools are going to be right. Even if one of
Mm-hmm.
them is correct, if the other one is wrong, the answer is wrong. So yeah. Now, that wasn't the case with new and full moons because the moon moves so quickly. So
Yeah.
once you are in a state of being able to understand the general predictive flow of those movements, then, you know, seeing a new or full moon, the conjunction or opposition of those two is a little simpler. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is the topic. This is what we're working on.
I'm so looking forward. I'm so looking forward, especially like what you say, the Saturn, Mars Saturn opposition is just happened recently. And then
Yeah.
you read all the news, you read all those news, you just like, ouch, that is interesting because I think we yesterday, Leanne interviewed Tanya, and then they also talk about this opposition, and then even mentioned about they are kind of what because Mars moving into Libra is
Yeah.
where the Saturn exalted, and
Yeah.
Saturn is in Mars sign. So I also read a few things about this so-called could we consider they have mutual reception? I'm sorry to bring this to you because
No, it's
I'm
okay.
just
I think
curious.
it's No, I think that anybody who's banking on that is, and I say this with the deepest respect, knowing that we all have different walks and
Yes, yes.
appreciations for different components, and so all I can do is I say that I think if you're banking on that, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. There is no world in which a planet like Saturn and a planet like Mars, who are naturally duplicitous, likely to focus on whatever's good for their own state of being. They're not generally like giving help. They're not Venus, they're not Jupiter, they're not the sun.
Uh-huh.
So you get one of those planets debilitated. I don't know why you would bank on reception. Reception is not a required contract.
Mm-hmm.
Reception is something that should happen. But the
Mm-hmm.
problem is that Mars is not signified in a way that indicates that it's likely to receive Saturn.
Mm-hmm.
Saturn's retrograde, it's conjunct Neptune, also retrograde. None of this to me looks even remotely. Also, when it comes to mundane astrology, you have to have a very different lens about
Mm-hmm.
dignities and debilities. It's not like it is in horary astrology, natal
Okay.
astrology. There's some element of dignity and debility that shows up, obviously, in particular places, but I think the scope is different. In the mundane course, we talk about this a little bit. It's hard to
Yeah.
kind of wrap. You have to have it with a light touch, but it's just you take Mercury, Mars, and Saturn. If these three planets are debilitated and afflicted in meaningful ways by being retrograde or in a sign in which they're not in good position or
Mm-hmm.
conjunct the south node or any combination of these three, especially if they're also being triggered by a hard aspect. There's no reception there.
Uh-huh.
It's like watching Game of Thrones. Did you watch Game of Thrones?
A little bit.
Every time I try to use this example, everybody says that they didn't watch Game of Thrones, and so it doesn't go anywhere. But there's a season in which there's a huge plot point that comes from a lord who owns this large castle and is responsible for these river crossings, and he manages this bridge
Mm.
that allows people to cross the riverlands. And he receives into his home an army that wants to advance, and then while they're
We lost you. Oh. Mercury play a bit again. Yesterday, I think they experienced, okay, Wade has left, but I think Wade will join us very soon. But it was so interesting to hear Wade talk about this and from the, traditional astrologer's view. And also, I talking about Mercury. Yesterday, Leanne's supposed to have a live streaming with Tanya, and they also experienced some challenge. Instead, they have to go to the go to Zoom to start with it. So, but today, we have an interview with. Oh yes, I know you're still here. So okay, let me. Should we? Okay, should I? Here we are. Yeah. So you back?
Okay, I'm back. So what happens is I have a time limit on Instagram to make sure that I'm not on it for too long, and it just like shut down. It was like, all right, time for you to get off the app. But anyway, to finish up that like
Yeah.
very story, the point is that this guy, there's old, just look it up online, hospitality rules for medieval or feudal societies.
Hmm.
If you welcome somebody into your home and you let them eat from your, their food and all of this, what
Hmm.
you're doing is you're extending protection and care over these individuals. But what this Lord did is he allowed them to come into his home, gave a guise of protection, locked the doors, and slaughtered the entire family and their armies. That's what this Mars Saturn opposition is. I appreciate that you think reception should be happening, but I'm shocked that you would trust Saturn and Aries retrograde in opposition to Mars and Libra to make good on what everyone else would do in that situation. Come on.
Wow, so funny. So interesting. I like your analogy, and I think Tanya has more or less similar view about it. So it
Yeah.
is so nice to hear that because for us as I hardly really dive deep into the traditional view, so usually we'll say, oh, they have a reception, and but is that how the traditional astrologers see it? So it is so nice to hear you talk about this, and then I'm really sure during the conference, you are going to give us more example about this Mars
Yeah.
Saturn cycle, and especially in the mountain astrology view. I can't wait to hear that. So, well, wait, thank you for joining us today. And I know weather is nice. You probably can't wait to going out, have a quick walk, and
Yeah, I need to walk
relax a bit.
outside. It's so hot in my apartment right now. I can't believe it. I shut the
Okay.
door, forgot to turn the AC on, which is on the other side of the room. I'm like,
Oh dear.
I'm melting.
No, 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 no. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. And I'm really looking forward to see you at the conference and hanging out together. And to all our followers, please come to join us in Nottingham. We still have a few space, maybe not much. But if you couldn't, you can still join us online. We still have a lot of place online. So come to our Astrological Association website and secure your place before too late. Okay. Well, thank you, Wade, and have a great day.
All right. Thanks so much, Rod. Take care, everybody.
Bye bye.